Daniel Andrews is a native of Columbia, South Carolina, where he currently resides after an absence of 13 years. He owns a business, shows business people how to identify, find, meet, and nurture professional relationships with key referral partners. Fundamentally, he shows business people how to stop networking and start building true networks. This is his fourth career. Everybody here have had many businesses. I love that, and successful ones. He's been successful self-employed for 38 years, 52 if you start with a lemonade stand. I love to hear more about the lemonade stand. That's great. I love it. Awesome. Love lemonade, and to hear those stories about people and support that you had to start somewhere. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Good to be here. And if I thought it was the best use of everybody's time, I would tell them of the journey from lemonade stand to selling greeting cards door to door to selling programs at University of South Carolina football games to selling M&Ms to my fellow classmates at my high school, and then on to a 15-year career in direct sales, and then as a 1099 for other companies until eventually I launched my own thing with my own brand 9 years ago. So I'm having fun out here. But I've got a little bit of I'll phrase it correctly. I've got enough time to really set the tone with this early story. And I wish I had a good way to represent person A and person B in this. It's not even a story, it's a retelling of an actual event. My wife said if I start using hand puppets to tell the story, she's leaving. So we can't do the hand puppet thing, but I will shift my focus. Okay. I was in St. Louis, Missouri, and struggling in career number 3. It was actually my second attempt to launch the same business, and I was starting to get some traction on it. And I had found someone who was from the city and had strong relationships. I was not from St. Louis. I'm from here in Columbia, South Carolina. And he agreed to act as my wingman, professional wingman, if that makes sense to you guys. Hopefully you'll understand that metaphor. I don't know how many people from around the world are listening or what cultural references there are. And we had gone to the business, the prospective business, and met with the owner, who's the ultimate decision maker, the CFO, who understood the value proposition, not the field I'm in now, the wingman, and myself. And it went well. And as typically the case on a business to business sale, the owner asks us to time to think about it, discuss, blah, blah, come back and get a decision. Fine, that's the way it is. Don't like it that way, but that's the way it is. So we had gone back to one of the business's properties, and all I'll say about it is they had 12 locations and 800 employees. So you don't really need to know what the deal was to know that's a big deal. That's bigger than the average company, right? That's going to be a good size account. And we're standing on the parking lot, and the prospect points at me and says to the wingman, "Who is this guy?" And the wingman says, "He's my guy." And the prospect points at me and says, "But I don't know this guy." And the wingman says, "He's my guy." And the prospect points at me and says, "But what happens if something happens to this guy?" And the wingman says, "I'll find another guy." And as I drove away, because we had arrived separately, my feelings were hurt because my experience up to that point of referral was a chance to shift the spotlight. Hey, you need to take a look at the thing Daniel's got. Right? That's all I want to say. Just you need to take a look at the thing Daniel's got. My first 15 years was in direct sales. That was literally the entire prospecting method, was to get somebody to say to their friends and neighbors, you need to take a look at the thing Dan's got. And I realized that the wingman never pointed at me the whole time. But then I thought about the fact, Stephen, that we actually got the deal. So maybe I shouldn't be worried about whether or not my feelings were hurt. Maybe I needed to have more like that. And I started thinking really hard, how do you create more like that? Instead of waiting to stumble across a wingman, somebody who's prepared to be your wingman, how do you create those wingmen? Now, have I reached a point since then where my wingmen go to the prospects with me and go, just shut up and sign up? No, but I've gotten that metaphorically. I was talking to somebody earlier today. I'm driving away from a business owned by Corey. He told me to call on his brother, Steve, that owned another business. And as I'm driving to Steve, the woman that ran the neighboring business that was identical industry, different brand to Corey, called me and said, "We need what you've got." And I said, "I haven't even talked to you about what I've got." She goes, "Corey explained it pretty well." when can you come by and give us what you got? I said, I will book an appointment to give you what I've got, but we have to also book a previous appointment to talk about whether what I've got is what you need, because you haven't heard me explain it. And I love Corey, but I'm not entirely sure he explained it right. She goes, fair enough, but put a date on the calendar to come train my employees and then come by here when you're done talking to Corey's brother. Right? That's happened to me as well. That's what you want. You're not interested in names. You're interested in the trust that comes from building trust and then borrowing trust. Because when Wingman said a prospect on the parking lot pavement, he's my guy. Wingman was saying, keep the focus where the focus needs to be. It's not about him at all. You trust me and I trust him. Done. Right? Write that down. Trust is transitive. Trust is transitive. That's why we ask our friends for recommendations on restaurants and roofers and real estate agents, because trust is transitive. And when you've built trust with someone, you now have access to everybody that they trust if they believe that person is a good introduction for you. Nicole and I were in STK's room. She has 3 names, so we call her by our initials. We were in STK's room, and she messaged me, do you know Nicole? And I said, no. She said, y'all should meet. And I said, I'll send her my link. I didn't ask her to explain why. I didn't ask, because I know Suzanne, number one, Suzanne knows her stuff, but Suzanne knows my stuff. She knows me well enough to know who I need to be talking to. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I promise you, Nicole wasn't searching LinkedIn for Daniel Andrews, and I wasn't searching LinkedIn for Nicole Borky either. But when Suzanne's, y'all should talk, she's like, all right, I'll get on that calendar link. It's really that simple. Okay. So when people think about networking, and the tell is, I say, is that a subset of your marketing program? And they go, yeah. And I go, that's why it's not working. And the problem with what most people call networking, Beverly, is that it's like going to the Vegas and playing the slot machine. It pays off just often enough to trick you into thinking you're making progress, and you are not. You might not be going underwater, but you are literally not making progress. You're marketing by hand. As far as what most people accomplish at an online networking event, they might as well just throw their text wall into the chat box. You know exactly what I'm talking about, and cash out and go. As far as what they accomplish. In live networking events, Colleen, they'd have been better off to flyer every car in the parking lot and not spend the time, the money, or the calories at the happy hour or the coffee hour. As far as what they got awareness, but they didn't get any trust. They didn't get any credibility, and they're not going to get any referrals. People aren't networking, they're speed prospecting. And it's true, because they've sold you at the meeting. They back you up against the wall, Monsanto, and try to convince you to buy their thing. And you're like, I never signed up for this conversation. What are you doing here? What kind of conversation are we having? I didn't even identify myself as a prospect. And by the way, here's a key concept. You can identify an ideal client profile, but you cannot identify a prospect. The only person that can identify a prospect is the prospect. They are not a prospect until they tell you they are. Now, again, I don't know how big of a geographical and cultural spread we're addressing here, Nicole, but I will use some very gendered and Western specific examples. And you may say this is gendered, but I challenge you to tell me I'm wrong. If I go to a department store or the mall, Mike, I am not there to shop nor browse. I am there to purchase. And yet, when the clerk approaches me and says, can I help you? What's the first thing I say every time? Just looking. Knowing, Beverly, 5 minutes later, I'm going to be like, you got this in my size? And she's not going to look at me and go, I don't know, Mr. Andrews. I'm not allowed to help you. You're just looking. But she also doesn't stand over my shoulder and go, you and I both know you're kidding. I can tell from those shoes, you're here to buy shoes, because if you're not, you ought to be. And those are in bad shape. And while I'm thinking about it, your tie's a little frayed. I'll just stand here until you're ready for me. Because she would lose the sale then, wouldn't she, Mike? I'm out of there. Nobody's a prospect until they say, do you have that in my size? They may look like a prospect. They may sound like a prospect. Colleen, if you can get close enough to them, they may smell like a prospect, but they're not a prospect until they tell you they're a prospect. Okay. You can identify a deal client profile, but you cannot identify a prospect. They have to identify themselves. Right. So if we're out building a network, what should we be looking to do? You're looking to get introduced, to meet or get introduced. Introductions are better than meeting because the trust is transitive. Key referral partners. Key referral partner. I don't care what industry you're in, there's somebody that sells adjacent to you. They're not selling what you're selling, but they're selling to the same people. If you're in the mortgage industry, who's your key referral partner? Y'all can come off mute. You can participate in my talk with me. Real estate, clearly. If you're the graphic designer, who's your key referral partner? The billboard company and the website designer. If you're a salary negotiation coach, who's your key referral partner? The resume writing coach. There's somebody out there for all of us, and usually more than one. Here's what's interesting. In order for somebody to spend money with you, Mike, they have to have a certain threshold of trust in you. There's some threshold that they got to cross, right? You can't just hand them your brochure and collect a check in most cases. If you can, I will pay you to coach me. Okay. And Beverly, sadly, there's not a meter, right, that gets to 100 and you can slide the contract across the table, right? I wish there were a meter on their farm, but there's not. There's some threshold, and it's different for everybody, depends on their circumstances and their personality. In order to get referred to a prospect, there's a higher level of trust that's required. Because if I of the right character, Stephen, I feel worse about referring you to buy Beverly's thing and you wasting your $10,000 than I would if I wasted my $10,000 with Beverly, if I have high character. And that's a problem. And here's why. If I'm more concerned about whether or not Beverly's going to spend her $10,000 correctly, or excuse me, Stephen's going to spend his $10,000 correctly with Beverly, then I have to know an awful lot about Beverly's offer and an awful lot about Stephen's needs. And I'm not likely to know either one of those that well. So it becomes its own barrier to getting what you need. The $5 question is, will you buy my thing? The $50 question is, who do you know that will buy my thing? The $500 question is, who do you know that would know a lot of people that would buy my thing? And that's the easiest introduction to get. Wait a minute. You talked about an escalating series of thresholds. No, one is a threshold, two is escalating. The third person, the most valuable connection, has got the lowest threshold of trust you need to cross in order to get there for two key reasons. Number one, Colleen, the value proposition is self-evident. If I've got to explain Beverly's coaching program to you, I've got to be clear on her outcomes and your needs. But if I say to you, hey, Colleen, you and Beverly might get along real well professionally because you sell shoes and she sells socks. And I bet you a lot of your customers need her stuff and a lot of her customers need your stuff. That's a self-evident value proposition. That's one reason why it's easy to get. The other reason it's easy to get is I assume the two of them will do their own due diligence about whether or not they feel comfortable referring business back and forth. I'm not trying to, it's like sending my friends on a blind date. She's not a psycho. He's not a felon. Just let me know how it works out. I don't have a PowerPoint slide deck, right, Monica, over how awesome Deborah is before she goes on a date with Ron. I'm just like, she's not nuts. He's not crazy. Y'all just let me know if it works out. It's not my job to manage the relationship. It's my job to make the introduction and let them figure it out, right? So this is fascinating. The most valuable introduction you can get is the easiest one to get. If you're being strategic about who you're building those relationships with, you will be in a position where you can get referrals consistently from a few people. And that's a lot better than getting a handful of referrals occasionally from a wide range of people. People say, I'm pretty good at networking. And I say the same thing every time. Bet you're not. And they go, that's bold. I said, I didn't say you weren't. I said, I bet you're not. But I tell you what, I believe in data over opinions. Let me ask you two questions and then we'll know the answer. And they go, fair enough. And I say, the first question is this: Beverly, you're making eye contact, or at least you look like you are, so I'm using you. My first question is, of the adults that you know, because we'll assume children aren't part of the buying or referring process, of the adults you know, what percentage of them could refer business to you? Now, if you're a real estate agent, you'll say 80, 90, 100%, right? If you're like one of my clients, a professional mermaid, you'll say 5 or 10%. If you're a B2B, you'll say 40, 50, 60%. I don't really care. It's high, medium, or low. And the answer is not even really that important, because the next question, Colleen, tells me everything you need to know. Of that number, how many people consistently refer business to you? And they go, oh. I said, awesome. You're good at making friends, which is great, because clearly you want more friends, because that's all you're doing is making friends. You're not good at networking if you're not consistent referrals. Ran into a guy recently that I know, Kevin. He said, what are you up to? I said, I'm showing people how to build their relationships, get more referrals. He goes, I actually was just keeping a spreadsheet last week of where all my clients came from. And I said, Kevin, of all the people I know, the one most likely to utter the phrase, I was just keeping a spreadsheet last week of where all my customers came from, you're at the top of the list. Now, this was 4 years ago. I've met one person more likely to say that than Kevin at this point, but it did not surprise me when Kevin said that. And I said, great. How many referrals? He said, Bill, right? I said, yeah. He said he closed his business and referred his 3 best clients to me. And I said, okay. And he said, other than that, I got 3 referrals from one client in the last year. That was, he can't count on Bill to relaunch a business every few years and then close it every few years and send him 3 clients. And even if he could, Colleen, that's just 1 a year. That's not very many, right? His high watermark was 3 from one person. I'm like, Kevin, you're a prospect for what I do. Because man, you're killing me. When I get introduced to people, Stephen, they're described to me as fully networked or highly networked, or I have to be walked into their office. And in that half a sentence, there are 2 key concepts, Monica. I have to be walked in. I cannot cold call my way into their presence. I have to be walked in by somebody that knows them. Their office. They are not out networking. They're not at the happy hour. They're not at the country club. They're not at the coffee hour. They don't belong to the chamber. They don't belong to the leads group. And I hear this a lot in financial services and real estate and insurance. That's Bob. He's been running the agency 30 years. He never has to leave because his customers bring business to him. Maybe in 30 years, I'll be that successful too. I said, how about 4 months? Just because he's been that way for 30 years doesn't mean it took him 30 years to get there. He could have been that way for the last 30 years. 29 and a half.
I like that how, and I see that a lot when we're talking about great, strong referrals. And we talked about this in our conversation. When you're bringing that in, what's the next step once you're like, hey, I'm exhausted from just talking to people, and maybe get together a sheet of who you're looking for so people know how to connect and refer you? How much do you rely on that to share and say, hey, these are the people I'm looking to connect with?
Correct. You've
Yeah.
got to be clear. Yeah. And if I wanted to speak very broadly, meaning if you want to, from 50,000 feet, the skill you're trying to master is how to ask the right question from the right person for the right introduction. And that sounds easy until you start to examine it, because most people can barely answer any one of the 3. They answer those poorly. Have you ever asked somebody, who do you serve, or who's your target market? And their answer included the word anybody or everybody?
All the time.
That's a lie, Susie. And even if it wasn't, it's not very helpful. But most importantly, that's a lie. You don't serve everybody. You will turn business away. Not
Right.
all money's good money. Colleen,
You
what
got a
you got?
niche down. Yeah, let me bring you up,
I do
Colleen.
have a question.
Sure, go.
So I just want to know how to do this online, because I was just thinking that I was actually thinking last night. So funny you pop in here like this, but I was thinking
That's
last
called
night
a
that
sign, Colleen. We should be talking soon.
it is, we should talk more. I have a friend. I say a friend. She wasn't my friend. I bought a piece of property from her. She's a real estate agent. You brought up real estate. I bought a farm from her 11 years ago. I've since bought 12 properties from her. And in the last 3 months, I've given her 3 referrals that all bought from her. Can I just say
Okay.
that? And that, but, and so I'm thinking in my mind, my business mind, why did that work? Like, why did that work? Why did it work? Because I had the relationships. I knew the people. I knew they were serious. I knew what they needed. And I knew her and I knew her service. And they both know me well enough that I said, I have somebody flying in from Florida. They need to meet you Sunday morning and go look at this. You're welcome to hop on a call with them and get more specific. But I know this is what they need. And I see this came up over here. And so, how do we get the depth of that and the sincerity of that relationship online? Because I'll be honest with you, 99% of the networking meetings I leave, I'm like, oh, thank God that's over.
Okay. It's hard for me to speak to subtleties and preferences. There are people that swear to me you can't get to know people if you're not meeting in person. There seems to be a small percentage of people that say that to me. And my reply was, okay, it's been good trying to get to know you. I don't serve everybody. We just said that a minute ago. I don't serve everybody. I don't have any problem building relationship in this context. You know what? In some ways, it's even easier. And somebody in the room is going to laugh when I say this. I've been DMing a bunch of side jokes, not making fun of y'all, making fun of this person in real time while this is going on. And we're building rapport while this is happening. I couldn't do that. If this was live, Beverly, I couldn't lean over and whisper to this person and be like, keep talking, Beverly. I couldn't do that, but I can here.
True. And it's the only way for some of us. I don't have.
Correct. If your local market doesn't have the people, then you got to figure out how to do it. So in general, I would say that most people don't find it significantly harder or prohibitively harder to build relationships digitally. Meaning, if I lose a few people along the way, the fact that I can meet with literally 5 times as many people by doing it digitally makes up for that. Okay. Now, I gave you the 50,000 foot view, but to answer Nicole's question a little more clearly, right? When I coach a 6 module, it's not a pitch for my course. This is just so you understand what you're right. If you want to master, ask the right question from the right person for the right introduction. And most people struggle to articulate. They think they can do all 3 of those well. And when you print them down there, it's very clunky and hard for them to articulate. But the categories are this, or the modules are this. Number 1, understand the power of your network. We are not dealing in names. We are dealing in trust. We are not dealing in names. We are dealing in trust. That's what we're passing from person to person. I have no interest in a referral, Colleen. I will take an introduction, i.e., if you won't put me in a 3-way thread, I'll pass. I've had people say to me, and I'm not saying y'all need to start here, but I'm here. I've had people say to me, Dan, what questions should I ask somebody to make sure they want to introduce to you? And I go, don't bother. And they go, what? I thought you wanted introductions. I said, I only want you to introduce me to the people that will take that introduction from you, no questions asked. And they go, that's a very small number of people. And I go, I know. Have you seen my calendar? Have you seen my calendar? Mike just got on my calendar. How far out did you have to book, Mike? That's because I opened up Saturday. I made Saturday available. That's why it's not very far out. Okay. But the reality is, guys, my calendar's full of people that came to me by introduction, right? We're dealing in trust is what names are not that important, right? Any of y'all participate in track and field, high school or college? Anybody here? Runner? Maybe? Nope. Okay. Beverly, got your hand up. What was your event? I'm curious. If you don't mind coming on mute and let me know, what was your event?
Relay.
Oh, the relay. Then this is going to be great. Y'all know how the relays work, right? 4 runners. Gun goes off, first runner comes out, boogieing around the track, baton in hand. This is not a baton. I need to buy one because I make this point all the time. This is my baton, my fake baton for the moment, right? First runner comes around the track. At the moment I hand off to the second runner, what is the second runner doing?
They're running towards you to get it.
They are already running. They are already running. Right? What is this runner doing wrong? Beverly knows the answer, but does anybody else know? What is this runner doing wrong? Looking back. You better believe it. That runner is looking back. That's what that runner's doing wrong. You know what you're interested in? This baton of trust. When Suzanne said to me, you need to talk to Nicole, I'm like, if you think I should, she goes, I do. I said, okay. I didn't look back. I didn't be like, why now? Exactly. How well do you know her? I didn't. I assumed everything's in order. Now I'll look back if there's a bobble. Dennis referred 2 people to me. One of them stood me up the week before Christmas. She didn't say anything. I said, what's up? I said, hey, I hope everything's good, right? Because I don't know, maybe she's in an accident or something. I said, everything. Oh, my significant other took me away at the last minute on a getaway weekend. I'm like, okay. So she got on my calendar and booked for January 2nd, Friday, January 2nd. No showed me. I sent her a message. Missed you. Hope you're okay. Oh, I was enjoying the vacation. Didn't even look at my calendar. Do you have anything for Friday? She's not going to reply from me. Dennis also gave me an introduction to a guy named William. 20 minutes before the meeting, he declines appointment he's already accepted. And I sent him an email and said, I see you declined the meeting. I hope everything's okay. He said, thank you. Hope everything's okay with you too. You know who my next call is to? Dennis. You know who I don't trust? Dennis. What we're passing from person to person is trust.
Yeah, it's identifying who you are and understanding people. And I think there's a lot. My experience is law enforcement and security, you had to be able to understand body language. If somebody's in a good mood, if they're in a bad mood, if they're going to do something possibly bad, or if they're just there to party and have a good time and hear the band or whatever that is. And I think that's being part of being able to identify characters and people you can trust. And you can do that online. You have to be
You
able to
can.
trust your intuition of knowing people. And if you don't know that's a good person or a bad person, we're all human. And don't be in the moment of desperation. I think it shows good leadership to actually make that judgment. There's that
Yeah.
horrible word people talk about all the time, but really use your critical mindset to
Yeah.
think of what you're doing.
So understand that trust is the currency. And I hate to use the word currency in relation to trust, but you know what I'm saying? Trust is what we're interested in here, right? Then the 5 additional modules after that. Number 1, be selective. You don't need to convince everybody you're good at your job. You need to convince 6 key people you're good at your job, and you'll never hurt for referrals ever. 6 max. Yeah, 6. Number 2 is third module. Second step is ask better questions. People talk about the game. They talk about the holidays. They talk about the vacation. They talk about the kids. Nothing wrong with talking about those things, Colleen, but none of that moves the professional conversation forward. None of it. You can have the cutest grandchild in the world. I still don't know if you're good at your job. So ask better questions. Third module, right? Be prepared to make sure they're clear about how to support you. Be prepared to make sure they're clear on how you can support them. Most people aren't very good at telling you that. You have to poke them and prod them a little bit to get them to articulate who they actually want to serve, who their prospects are, and who their key referral partners are. Module after that is write a better intro. It's shorter than you think it is. I don't need no bio. I don't care that you're a best-selling author. These days, it takes 50 clicks and an AI bot. You can become a best-selling author. That means nothing. The intros are shorter than you think they ought to be. And number 6, how to get into a consistent pattern with your key referral partners where you meet regularly and share strategic introductions. Most people will go, I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people will go as far as, Nicole, building trust and becoming referable in the other person's mind. And then they wonder why they never get referrals. And before you think it has to do with the other person's character, let me pause and point out you've been that person too. You've told somebody else in business your way and you never did. And so then you have to ask yourself, why? What held me up? If somebody believes you're referable, Beverly, they believe you're competent at the work you do, and they don't send you referrals, in my experience, there's only one of 3 speed bumps. They're either not exactly sure who, they're not exactly sure how, or they just didn't put the time on their calendar. So if you work with your partners to put time on the calendar to discuss the who and the how, problem solved.
Beverly's got a question. Go ahead and unmute.
I just wanted to make a statement with respect to referrals. I have someone that I work with, we're both coaches, and she wanted to refer me to someone, but she said she didn't do it because I'm not on social media. And he's like, once you get on social media more, and then I can refer you. However, she had referred me to other people prior. So it was a situation where we work together, we know each other's value and what we can accomplish and get results, get people results. But because I wasn't visible on social media, she decided not to.
Because she was wondering she thinks her key to success is getting more exposure, and she wants you to build your audience so you can get more exposure. And if that's how people get business, that's called marketing. But if somebody's not referring me because I'm the best at what I do or the best person to serve that person, then the introduction is sus to start with. Meaning that's why finder's fees will kill you. Finder's fees will kill you because once somebody knows that you're getting paid to send business, refer them as a prospect, you lose all the trust. So I personally wouldn't be particularly interested in more referrals from her because this person is not showing a degree of mutuality, right? She's pursuing marketing. And by the way, downloads, impressions, right? Listeners, followers, likes, reactions, mean nothing. Those are ego metrics. There's one number, revenue, and there's two numbers that feed the one number. How many people are giving you money and how many people are referring people to give you money. Every other number you're pursuing because it makes you feel good inside. But if it don't make your bank account feel good inside, I don't really care. The most successful people I know don't have huge LinkedIn followings because they're taking care of their key referral partners and they're taking care of their customers in that order. Because a referral is one payday, but a key referral partner is a lifetime's worth of paydays. I'll take disputations. You can argue with me if you want. You can tell me I'm wrong if you think you can back it up. Because, by the way, none of this came naturally to me. This is career number 2 in my hometown. And the people that knew me in the 90s go, wait a minute, that guy's coaching relationships? Let me sum it up this way. My first wife used to tell people all the time, Daniel's good in small doses. Okay. I am not naturally a relationship builder at all. At all. I had to learn what didn't come naturally to me. I had to learn what you think works probably doesn't. And when I looked at the numbers, when I looked at the math, when I looked at the results, I'm like, I'm going to have to change what I'm doing because what I'm doing is not taking me where I want to go. So if I said anything that's counterintuitive, but the data backs me up. The data backs me up. All
It
of my
does.
positions
I
are
like
based on
that.
data.
I love how you say it. You know, what's cool about that is that when I started first getting into networking and I joined a team or whatever it was called, Together Everyone Achieves More, whatever it was. And it's like when you come out of a different career, maybe something corporate, something very structured, you have networking and people funneled to you. So they already know what they need. They already know what they desire. And I think this is more maybe of strategy, structure, and calculations. I think you're just showing the proof is in the data and the simplicity maybe of just having a spreadsheet, maybe if it works, right, to reconnect with people.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, because I do have to bounce near the bottom of that. I had some computer issues yesterday. I had to reschedule some stuff over into today. But if you're in the B2B world, 6 key referral partners is all you need. Because if you have 6 people referring one qualified prospect per month, introducing one ideal client profile per month, that's 72 a year. If you're in the B2B space, that's a lot of people. If you're in the coaching space, that's more than you can handle, which is, I'll coach you how to handle it when you get there. But anyway, 6. That's all you need. I don't need a spreadsheet. I need to keep up with 6 people. I can keep 6 people in my head. Right now, I do need to keep notes of who I've introduced them to, Beverly, because I don't want to propose the same person in June that I proposed in January. Okay. But if you'll approach 24 potential key referral partners with the value proposition is, I think we should get to know each other, build trust, determine if we can refer business back and forth, and then get to it. Of the 24, 22 will tell you it's a good idea. 18 will get on your calendar. 16 will show up. 12 will tell you, let's do this. And 6 of them actually will. You only need 24 initial approaches to get to your 6. You're 6 weeks away from having your key players in place. But you got to know how to build, not build, but accelerate the trust. If you only let a key referral partner on your calendar by introduction, then they're already primed to trust you. And you can usually get leads at the end of the first get to know you call.
Good takeaways. I want to honor your time and thank you for
Thanks.
being here. I'm so glad that we had someone that we trusted and truly had the knowledge and the expertise to connect us. We'll connect again after this, but thank you for being here, you guys. I've got Daniel's information in here. I'll put it in one last time. Get on a call with him and connect to him. Some great stuff, making it easy, making it simple. This is the way really to influence your audience, is to stay connected with the right
Yep.
people that you
Thank you.
trust. Thank you.
And I've
All
got a
right.
great offer for the attendees and a really good offer for the VIPs.